Folks, welcome to another edition of Play Branson, where you get to know Branson's entertainers better. My name's Chris Meyer. I'm going to be your host for today. And on today's show, we have Marty Scott with the Liverpool Legends, which is a Beatles tribute band. And we're really excited to have Marty in the studio today. We interviewed him probably about 4 years ago, but it was on set and it was with all the band. And so we'll get to have him, talk to him a little bit more about their history and how they got started. But when you talk about the Beatles, like, they are one of the most iconic bands in history. In fact, it's been noted that they may be the best-selling artist of all time, and it's estimated they have sold over 600 million records. And what's pretty amazing about that is they were really only together as the Beatles for about 10 years, from 1960 to 1970. And by 1964, they were international superstars. Now, prior to that, some of them were in a band, based on what I read, called the Quarrymen, which I did not know that. And so they came obviously out of the UK, tons of hits. And so I think you're going to be excited to hear about Liverpool Legends and what they've been able to accomplish and do since they've been formed. Now, if you're thinking about the fall, you're thinking about, should I come to Branson? It's a perfect time to come to Branson in September and October. There's lots of fall festivals happening. We have a lot of special one-off entertainer events. Of course, all of our great shows happening. So if you're sitting at home and you're like, should I go to Branson this fall? You absolutely should. You'll have a great time here in Branson, Missouri. We're going to be back in just a second with Marty Scott. Hang tight.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. And on the show today, for the first time in studio, we have the one and only Marty Scott with Liverpool Legends.
Hello.
Welcome.
Great to be here.
And so this is really the first time you and I have just got to sit down and talk, because we did do a segment several years ago now, but it was on stage, it was the whole band, and so I'm glad to just sit here and chat with you.
Me too. I've been watching your show all the time, and I'm happy to be on.
Yeah. So tell people about your history. How did you get into this business? And I mean, I think it's pretty darn interesting. And
well, pretty much I had the right haircut. That's how it started. No, I grew up a big Beatle fan, and one of my friends, when we were growing up, was a little older than me, and he sort of pushed the Beatles on me. You know, he was like, listen to these guys, and he happened to look a lot like John Lennon. And we ended up, we always sang a lot of Beatles songs, but we sang all kinds of music. We were songwriters, we made records, and we did all kinds of music, but somehow we did a show where, it was a special show one day, we're like, let's just do the Beatles. And it worked so well that we did it again, and then we did it again, and then it just turned into like, wow, maybe we could be Beatles, you know? And we had no idea, and we had been playing the songs for so much time, and we were good at it. So a couple years went by, and we started this group, and we were performing at a Beatle convention in Chicago. This was before it was Liverpool Legends, and George Harrison's sister, Louise, George had just passed away, so it was, you know, a while back, and she was the guest of honor at this Beatle convention, and we were performing there, singing, and, you know, and I was singing the George stuff, and she was still pretty emotional about George, and she's pretty spiritual, and she thought that I was brought to her for, you know, whatever reason. And we spent the whole week together. She was in Chicago, and it was a series of 3-day festival of Beatles. And then she ended up staying at my house that week. and Paul McCartney happened to be in town. So a week later, she brought me to see Paul.
And you're like, this is cool.
I'm sitting on a couch with Paul like this, for 45 minutes. And I'm in between Paul McCartney. And at the time, I was still freaked out that I was with George Harrison's sister, because I'm doing this George impersonation.
Yeah.
And I'm in between both of them going like, this is crazy, insane. And, and that was the start of it. Literally, it was getting to hang out with Paul was amazing, and he was super cool. And I think because George had just passed, he was amazing to Louise. Like, people kept coming in saying like, hey, Paul, because he had a show to do, and he just kept sending people away going like, no, and so it was amazing. And then we were friends for a couple of years. We became really close. She sort of became, at that point, it was amazing that I was with her, but as a couple of years went by, she became family. It's kind of like my grandmother at this point.
Yeah.
And so we decided to put a show together. There's a lot of Beatle groups in the world. There's a handful of good ones, but it's really hard to find 4 people that like fit into the roles of the Beatles. The Beatles were really great singers. They were funny. They looked a certain way. They had different ranges in their voices, and we did auditions, and because I had George Harrison's sister with me, it was getting a lot of publicity. Within like the first week or 2 that we put the show together, we got a little blurb in Rolling Stone saying like George Harrison's sister to manage Beatles. I mean, she didn't manage us,
right,
but it was just a bit, and it was opening all these crazy doors.
It helped.
Yeah, and then of all things, we put the show together, and randomly there was some guy from Branson that was at a show. And at the time, I've never heard of it. I'm from Chicago. I don't go on vacation too much. And this guy was like, well, I've got a venue in Branson. And I'm like, where? Where's that? And so we came out here for a couple weeks, and I fell in love with the town. I thought, man, I can come here and we can go fishing every day. And, I love the lake and stuff like that. So after we did a couple weeks here, we started getting offers from theaters, because at the time there was nothing here like us at that time. There wasn't too much rock and roll here. There was like a lot of country artists and magicians, and there was nothing like us. So we kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. So we got approached by a few venues, and that next year we came here. And I've been here, this is year 17 in Branson.
Yeah. And you've been at different theaters over time.
We've been on tour in Branson.
That's what they always say, you've been on tour in Branson, and things happen and change. And
I will say that the theater that we're at now is my favorite. It's always been my favorite. Andy Williams knew how to put a production together, and he knew how to build a theater. That theater, the lighting and the sound and actually the upgrades that they've done, just this year has been. If anybody has seen our show, Liverpool Legends, before, you haven't seen it. You haven't seen it until you see it at Andy Williams, because you saw it.
Oh yeah.
You've seen it in a lot of different venues.
Yeah, you got the big huge screen behind you. And,
so we can set ourselves. They got this like 4K. We've done a lot of venues around the world. We played Carnegie Hall. We've done the Rose Bowl. We've done major venues. And never have we played in front of a screen like they have right now at Andy Williams. It's like this 4K. It's like looks 3-dimensional, and so we can set ourselves into any Beatles scene, sort of. It's really been great.
And so the Beatles have been, like, as a band, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're going to know it better, but they were done in 1970, or about then. And now they came back, I think, and they kept going on their own careers. But if you think about how timeless their music is, it's crazy.
The amazing thing is they've made records pretty much from 63 to 70 only. So in 6 or 7 years, all of that catalog of song after song after song of hits and everything that they did in the way they changed the world with each year, they were sort of the forefront of the 60s. In everything that they did, everybody else sort of followed. Fashion, politics, and music, and everything else in between. And the amount of, and that's what is cool for us. We have hundreds of songs to choose from. where like most, if you're going to be like a tribute show, a lot of acts have 5 or 6 songs and then they have to start playing blues covers or something, where the Beatles are like, we can change our show every night and have fun and still never play. No matter what we do or how long our show is, there's always somebody coming up to us at the end of the show going like, you didn't play Let It Be. And I'm like, well, I know, we played it last night, but we played Hey Jude tonight, so come back tomorrow. And it's really hard to please everybody because there's so many wonderful songs that those guys wrote.
So what you're telling me is, and we're going to talk more about the show, but you don't necessarily play the same stuff every night.
We don't.
Okay.
Because the thing is we're fans ourselves. So there's a lot of songs that you kind of have to play. So you kind of have to play I Want to Hold Your Hand. You kind of have to play Twist and Shout. I have to sing Here Comes the Sun. So there's a lot of that in a show. But then there's about 20% of it where we just kind of, okay, let's do this today so we can, because we do thousands and thousands of shows. Otherwise, we turn into robots, sort of.
There we go. Yes, okay, this is a great spot for us to stop. We will be back in just a minute to hear more about Liverpool Legends. Stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome back to PlayBranson. We're here with Marty Scott with Liverpool Legends over at the Andy Williams Moon River Theater or Moon River Performing Arts Center, whatever they're calling it today.
Moon River Theater.
Moon River Theater, is that what they call it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So tell people about the actual show. What can they expect if they've never been?
So it's basically like it's a concert, a full-blown rock concert. We try to give an experience of what it would have been to see the Beatles, and it's as true to form as could possibly be. And it's also a sort of a Beatle history lesson because Louise Harrison narrates the show, which is really interesting. So she has all these personal memories of what was going on. The Beatles kind of evolved. Each year and each record that they made, they changed, and which really doesn't happen these days. But like every year, they were leading the pack. And so as the show goes on, our hair's getting longer, our guitars are getting more psychedelic. Everything that they did through the course of the history of the Beatles, we try to hit that in the show. So it's a bit of, you see the evolution of the Beatles, basically. And then at the end, Yoko comes out and we break up. And started, so I
was like, I wasn't there that night.
No. But it's basically, we try to give it the truest experience as we could possibly do to the Beatles' career. And it's all live, and there's no tracks, and there's no lip syncing, and there's none of that stuff. It's just, we're a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
So, and we pride ourselves on doing everything live. There's which is pretty rare these days.
Yeah. One of the things about your show that you don't see I don't know if you see anywhere else in town, but like you actually encourage people to get up out of their seat and come down to the front of the stage and stand up. And those that want to sit in their seat can, but a lot of people do that.
Well, if you've ever seen a Beatle concert and you have seen what those crowds look like, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So the whole screaming and yelling thing, that's part of the experience. So it's important, and it's more fun for us. As a performer, you want to see people up front and screaming, and that's what we've done our whole lives. Yeah. And so it's a little bit out of the box for a theater show, but it's a big part. It's a big part of our show.
But
the experience of the audience.
But you haven't only done it this year. Like every time I've seen you, that's part of the show.
Yeah.
And every time people get up out of their seats. And that's why I say as an entertainer, you have a lot of power because you just have to ask. Those people want to, but they need almost like permission to.
Yeah, there's a lot of, when you're in a theater setting, a lot of times people think, okay, clap politely. So sometimes you just have to say, like I kind of make a bit out of it. I'll say like, okay, we're going to have a free-for-all now. There's no more rules. And as soon as you tell people that, all of a sudden this guy's up, and then sometimes it only takes one person. People see the one lady get up to dance, and then there's another one, and then it's interesting because it's a challenge for me, because I always as a performer, I'm like, how long is it going to take before these people are in? It's always like nobody, especially if nobody has seen the show before, we come out and it's a little more rocked out than they think it's going to be, the first song, and then the second song, and then the third song's a little audience participation. By the fifth song, almost every single time they're in, and it turns into part of the experience of a Beatle concert.
Yeah. So you not only do this in Branson, but you also have you have kind of two groups that are doing this sometimes, right?
Sometimes, but for the most part, since 2020, when we sat for a while, there was times like where we'd have a cast going in Branson, and then I'd have a cast like on a cruise ship or something. But for the most part, it's one cast, but we're in Branson during the week, and then we're traveling on weekends. So this week we played Sunday through Thursday in Branson, and then Friday we did a festival in Mountain Grove, and Saturday we played in St. Louis at a theater, and then we came back, played Sunday. So we're pretty busy Beatles is what we call it.
Busy Beatles. So you guys got nominated for a Grammy because you did an album called The Fab Fan Memories.
Yeah, it was a weird little fluke of a thing.
Well, I don't think getting a Grammy nomination is a fluke.
No, it was unexpected. Louise, somebody had asked Louise to narrate this disc about people's memories of the Beatles, and they needed music. And because if you use Beatles songs on a CD, you have to pay lots of money. Well, we could do Beatles songs, and we're pretty good at it. So they asked us to record a bunch of tracks. I didn't even really want to do it. I was like, I have to do what? We're busy. And then so I recorded all these songs in my house, and the producer of the disc called me a few months later. He's like, hey, you're not going to believe this, but we got nominated for a Grammy. Do you want to come out to the Grammys? And so Louise and I we were interviewed on the red carpet. It was a spoken word category was the category, which normally isn't really a category that even ends up on TV. But that year, it was going up against Tina Fey, Val Kilmer, and Betty White. So it was kind of cool, and Betty White won, whatever.
Yeah.
But we got to go to the.
But you got to go to the Grammys.
Yeah, the parties and it was quite a surreal experience, and we were sitting. Not like up at the very front with like the superstars, but we were like one part back with all the producers, and it was amazing. I'll never forget.
So the other thing is you guys got chosen, it says here, as the best Beatles tribute band in the world by top television and film producer Jerry Bruckheimer, if I said that right.
Bruckheimer, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So he picked you guys out.
Jerry, if you're watching,
Hey, oh well. That's why I have you here.
He's our friend. He found us on YouTube, and we got a call out of the blue, and we did some events for him, and like A-list. We played his house one time. Our dressing room was a hockey arena that's in his house. Like, he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
But
I've watched a lot of the shows he's produced.
Too. I'm such a fan. Such a fan.
So, you guys are going to start September 18th, and then you run through October 24th this year, and you have some 2 p.m. shows and some 7:30 shows.
Yeah, for the first time ever, really, we decided to do a matinee this year because it's just something, there's a lot of, the 8 o'clock slots, there's a lot of shows, and it's a lot of competition. Having a 2 o'clock, it gives people a chance, like if they've got their 8 o'clock show booked, come see 2 shows in one day, and so it's been fun for us. And then it's actually been kind of great. We get done at 4:30, and I get to go out to dinner for
So years ago, you and I did an event in Chicago where we were taking Branson on the road.
Yes.
And you guys came and performed at that, and it was a little venue called Dirty Nelly's, and you had performed there previous to that.
Yeah, before I was a Beatle. It's a complete coincidence, but that was the little Irish bar that I used to play every Tuesday night, playing to a bunch of college kids, which was kind of how I learned how to talk to an audience, because I spent more time talking than playing sometimes. And it was a lot of fun. I played I billed it as the best and worst songs of all time back then. Yeah.
So I think you're a perfect example of if people think Branson is just country music, your show is a perfect example of that's a myth and a rumor, and there's a big variety of entertainment here in Branson.
Yeah, I mean, so when we got here in 2005, there wasn't a lot of rock and roll here. There was a little bit, and we sort of were trailblazers of it a bit. I like to think that.
Yeah.
And now, there's a ton of shows. There's probably less country than other shows right now. I mean, Branson is a whole nother world, and you could tell by the people that are coming here. It's not, when I first got here, a lot of people were like, oh, Branson is for old people. And I'm like, no, it isn't that way at all. If you come to our shows, and part of that's because of the Beatles, like the Beatles have no age or denomination or what, I mean, there's 2-year-olds, there's 5-year-olds that are singing every word, and you think, oh, they must have cool parents or grandparents that are exposing them. But then you find out, no, it's the 5-year-old that dragged the parents to the show, that the 5-year-old is the Beatle fan, or it's amazing. So the age, there's an 8-year-old in our audience, and there's an 8-year-old, and they don't know each other, and they're doing the same dance and singing the same words. It's great.
And this is why I have said Branson is a great multi-generational place to come. So you can bring grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and the kids, and they can all go to a show and have a great time. And I think now more than ever, because of the internet, people can listen to a bigger range of music.
Yeah, and lucky enough for us, the Beatles, it's sort of one show that a great grandparent can agree with their grandchild, like, well, let's go see that show because they like it and they like it. And that's just the power of the Beatles. I mean, we're lucky enough that we do them well, but really, they're the only act really that has that age range of no age range. You know what I mean? There isn't a lot of acts that cross all those generations. It's amazing.
Okay, folks, go see the Liverpool Legends over at the Andy Williams Moon River Theater out there on West 76 Country Music Boulevard. You can catch the show mid-September through toward the end of October, October 24th, 2 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. Thanks for being on the show.
Make sure you yell and scream a lot when you come see us, all right?
We'll be back in just a minute to wrap the show up. Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Marty. And I'm telling you, if you like rock and roll music and you want to have a great time, go see their show over at the Andy Williams Moon River Theater. That's Liverpool Legend. Their fall season starts September 18th and runs through October 24th. They're going to do some 2 p.m. shows as well as 7:30 shows over there. Be sure to check the schedules out. And you can go to ibranson.com and check their schedule out on that website. You can actually book all of your shows and attractions on ibranson.com. They can help you plan your entire vacation there, or you can call them at 877-ENTERTAIN. Next week's show, I'm really excited about this, is Brianna Brett with a Brett Family Christmas. And so first time she's ever been on the show. The Bretts have been in Branson for several decades performing, and so really excited to have her on the show next week. Right around the corner, here in Branson, we've got Chris Cagle September 16th, John Conley September 17th. They're both out at Silver Dollar City. We have the Oak Ridge Boys. They've been a staple here in Branson for many years. September 21st, 22nd, then October 5th, 6th, 12th, 13th, 19th, and 20th, followed by more dates in November over at the Mansion Theater. Jimmy Fortune September 22nd, and then in October 1, 6, 13, and 20. We also have the Shepherd's Pumpkin Fest September 23rd through October 30th, and the Harvest Festival out at Silver Dollar City September 21st through October 29th, featuring crafts, pumpkins in the city, and of course Terry Bradshaw September 30th. Some of the upcoming events coming up here at the end of September, first part of October. If you haven't been to our Facebook page and liked it, please do so. Go to facebook.com/PlayBranson. Check us out on YouTube as well, or you can go to PlayBranson.com. Let us know what you think, who you'd like to see on a future episode, and thanks for watching Play Branson. We'll see you next week.